to increment the score, it's been correctly identified to add it to the clicking function. So if I want my score to get bigger, I can go into my clicking function and just simply say score is equal to score plus 1, provided I want my score to go up by 1 at a time. The shorthand way of writing that would be score plus equals 1. In most programming languages, that is the method that you would use, which is to do the plus equals versus saying the score is equal to the previous value plus 1 more. So line 49 says score is equal to score plus 1. Line 50 says score is equal to score plus 1. It just uses a cleaner notation. So most programming references are going to do it in that manner. Score plus equal 1. And if I do that and test my game, I should find every time I click on one of my orange blobs, yams, or whatever they are, the security faces, they should increase my score. So now we have a good start to getting the score increasing as part of it. The next part would be to set it up so that you can lose. It's frankly, I don't want to just keep adding to the score. I want to freeze the game. I want to make it game over. But before we do that, we could do that. Oh, what the heck. We'll do that, and then we'll go through the other method of then registering collisions, where we'll have, instead of clicking, we'll just have to run into each other. So we're using hit testing or collision detection, which is always the holy grail in any type of interactive game programming. How to register when one object collides with a different object. But for now, we're going to check to find out if we have lost. So currently, enemy loop just moves the object off screen. The enemy's off the screen. What we can also do within the enemy loop is check to find out, has the enemy gone too far to the left? Has it gone off the left-hand boundary of the stage? That left-hand boundary of the stage has a position of 0. So we're going to be using something related to that. So I can say if e.target.x is less than, now if I said 0, it's registering this x and y position based on the object's registration point. My object's registration point is in their top left corner. So if I look at enemy, it's this top left corner. So I want when the enemy's all the way off screen, not just when his left edge hits the border. So currently, eTarget.x is less than negative e.target.width. Because he has a width, a verifiable property, and we're checking to find out when is it less than that. So that would be, in essence, saying less than 0 minus the width. If that makes it easier, thinking about 0 as that left-hand margin, so when the object has passed that. So when the object is here, when the object right there is at 0. I want to know when the object is here. So that's effectively its width at a negative number. So that's what I'm trying to check for. Because I don't care about 0. I can just check when it's width. Now if I want to be lazy, I can see that the width of the object is 120, approximately. So I could just say when I am at negative 120. The disadvantage of using a hard-coded number is if I change my artwork, so my artwork becomes bigger or smaller, that value becomes less relevant. So whenever possible, I want to use a relative value, not an absolute value. So instead of minus 120, a negative width is preferred. But either will work in this case. Then I do a curly brace, close out my curly brace by hitting return on the keyboard. And at this point, I need to send out a game over message and all the things I want to have happen when it is game over. So one thing that I could do is I could make it so that I can't move my player anymore, because currently player is moving. So I could say, nope, you can't move player anymore. So we're going to start with that. So I'll just copy my player add event listener. Now I could retype all of this, but I find copy pasting makes my life much happier. So I'm a big fan of copy paste. And we're going to say player remove event listener. That stops the player from moving. So that's a good first step. Now, if I test this to see it in action, oh, and now see I died. I was thinking I was a hit test one, so I tried to avoid him, not click on him, and then I missed, but it died. So I can run it again. Click, click, scores up to 2. And now, oh, now stopped working. Now once I remove player loop, that also stops creating enemies, because player loop is the function that calls create enemies. So once I remove it, no new enemies will be created, and then it will just run through the ones that are there, but I can't do anything anymore. Now we could also add in a game over message, which is kind of nice. So it rounds out the whole game and says, oh, game over, and it puts a big blasting screen up there that's or message on screen that says game over, bright red, some other offensive color to make it that much more hateful that you lost. So that can be a nice thing that we can incorporate into it. Adding game over is like adding in the score field. If I grab my text tool, this time I'm going to go with bold. I like red for my game over messages because they're not about being nice. Now, my game over message is going to be a fixed message. It's not going to be dynamic text. It's classic text, but it can just be static because I'm just saying game over. I'm not specifying any type of special message as part of it. Just say game over. Now, as part of that, because it is static text, I can get away with not embedding it if I so choose. I'm also going to make my text a little bit bigger because as long as I'm saying game over, it should really be in the player's face, game over. It's just part of the fun. It adds to that whole you lost feeling.
In your face.
In your face, yes, I like all of that. So once I've done that, create my text field. Now I'm going to take this text field and put it in a movie clip wrapper. Game over. Because doing so allows me to then call it with code when I want it. And if I check the library, there it is. There's my game over movie clip. Delete it from screen because we don't need it. Go up into my variables. Var game over, lowercase g game over, type movie clip equals new capital G AME OVER. That creates my game over. I should have paid attention to X and Y for game over so I wouldn't have to just make things up right now, but I can do that. Game over dot X equals 100. game over.y equals 200. I'm just guessing at values here. You'll have to, I'll run it, fine tune it, and figure it out. So this creates the game over object. We don't see it yet. It's not on screen yet because we don't add child game over until we need it. And we need it when we lose. Then we say, in your face! And that happens when I lose. And that's down in my enemy loop. So I create my game over object, give it an x and y value so everything's all ready. That's getting prepped, getting ready. So in the code, import statements, variables, and then setting the properties of your different objects. Then you start doing your event listeners and the functions and other things that are called. That's the normal order. You never want to define all your variables up or like willy-nilly throughout your code, because if you have a function that calls a variable that you haven't defined yet, you get an error message. So we always define the variables first. So now in my enemy loop, when I have failed, when the enemy is run off screen, then I can say add child game over. And if I run it, say we'll get one and miss these now here, and see now game over showed up on screen and is fairly close to where I wanted to be. I need to move my x over a little bit. It's not quite far enough, but my y, maybe pull the y up a little bit as well. But now it added it and it's game over. So we're on target for creating a fully functioning little interactive whack-a-mole kind of game. So if I want to, let's see, take my x here and guess at about 120, my y about 180, then that would work. Now, these are absolute values, and there are ways that I can position the object. I could even center it on screen if I wanted to. I can do that through the magic of code without having to know how big the object is or how big the stage is, but we'll save that for a different evening of entertainment. So now if I run it, I'll just miss right away and we'll find out. Okay, pretty close. I think I could go up a little bit higher on the y value, but it's working. So create the game over message and then add it when you lose.